Let's turn to our good friend Laura Ingraham.
Yes.
She's here as well. Good morning, Laura.
Hey guys, how are you?
Good morning.
Good to see you.
You heard Kellyanne. They're talking about jobs. The president is meeting with CEOs, some of the biggest CEOs in our country, talking about infrastructure and tax reform.
Yeah, I mean, Donald Trump knows all these guys personally. He has a great relationship with someone like a Steve Schwarzman, a multi-billionaire, one of the most powerful men, by all accounts, in finance in New York and in the world. I think that's all great, and have them all in there, and they'll probably advance some ideas. But I think the thing that's most important right now for Donald Trump is to remember those core issues that he so successfully campaigned on and that motivated voters in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Michigan, Ohio. It was all focused on America first, and jobs, the economy, wages going up. That's it. That's in his wheelhouse. And Donald Trump is so comfortable and so knowledgeable in discussing finance and the economy and how to get jobs created and building and what it takes to start a project from beginning to end without government interference. He so easily discusses all this stuff, and it's very inspiring to people because he knows this. What I think is difficult at the same time is to be on, to manage this war footing that we increasingly seem to be on, with, the first messages coming out from Tillerson that we're going to do ISIS first, and it was Nikki Haley saying, no, we're going to do Assad first. And I do have my concerns about this administration getting mired again in another conflict in the Middle East, which, as we saw in the past, really led to America becoming more weak, weakening America, not strengthening America.
Well,
and I think there's a lot of his supporters who are also a little bit concerned about that, to say the least.
Absolutely. And I'm sure you saw yesterday, mainstream media, they were trying to get Sean Spicer to pin him down. Where's the red line? And what is the Trump doctrine? This guy doesn't have a doctrine, unlike Barack Obama, which some on your side would say appeasement, or George W. Bush, who was into nation building. What's this guy stand for? People
his doctrine was America. Well, I would disagree with that. I think his doctrine was America first. We'll come to the aid of our allies, and we'll meet our obligations, and we're going to act in America's national security interest. But he spent the whole campaign talking about how Syria was not in the national security interest, and even last week or 10 days ago, he said that. I just want to mention this. There was a piece in Politico, guys, where apparently his communications director, Mike Dubke, I don't know who he is, but he had this big meeting in the White House with 30 staffers, and he said to the staffers, there is no Trump doctrine.
Right.
And people were really upset about that, and I don't blame them, and I can't imagine the president wants his own communication director to tell all the staff, well, he has no doctrine, and we're going to have to rebrand this presidency. He said both things, according to multiple sources.
Wow.
I can't imagine the president wants his communications director to go out there saying that to staffers. I don't get that. I don't know what they're doing in there on the communications front, and I'm not talking about Spicer or Kellyanne. I'm talking about that message. How is that helping Donald Trump? He had a very clear message, which is why he motivated people in the middle of the night to line up to go see him at rallies. And I'm not sure getting rid of Bashar al-Assad was at the top of the list of those people in Pennsylvania that showed up to rallies.
To that point, how do you read the Secretary of State's comments this morning when he's saying directly that the reign of the Assad family is coming to an end? Is this regime change?
I mean, is he cutting some deal with Sergei Lavrov? I mean, what exactly do we want? Do we want to go to war with Russia, Syria, Iran? I mean, I guess we could try that. I mean, we seem to try a lot of difficult things in the 2000s under George W. Bush. We lost trillions of dollars, quoting Donald Trump. Lost trillions of dollars, lost thousands of men. China became stronger, and America became weaker.
What's the alternative, then? Just keeping him in power and continuing to strike if he does stuff like he did last week?
Yeah, well, I would say that if we're worried about atrocities, and if photos are going to direct our foreign policy, then I can show you about 15 photos I received this morning from those Palm Sunday masses in Egypt, also from Central African Republic, where children are being burned to death in huts, locked into huts, and burned to death with flamethrowers. We could show a lot of those photos. That mean we're going to send in the cruise missiles? We've got a lot of atrocities happening around the world.
No kidding.
All right, we're bringing Laura Ingraham back in. Hey, Laura, good to see you again. Let's talk about what happened on Palm Sunday. You know, it's just awful, the Christian genocide. Mainstream media is not talking about this, and those Christians, those Coptic Christians that were killed while they were worshiping God in church.
Yeah, I mean, Nikki Haley holds up those horrific signs of the chemical attack in Syria, and the world weeps, and we all did as Americans. But the Christian population, the Christian minority, throughout the Middle East has been brutalized, tortured, forced conversions, their girls and their babies taken from their arms, moms, in Iraq, Syria, and we've seen what's happened in Egypt. This has been happening with virtually no response from the West. We don't really prioritize the refugee population and give much help at all to the Christians. I mean, we've been talking about this on Fox and Friends for years. Obama didn't discuss it much. Bush didn't discuss it much. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, guys. It feels good to think you're doing something against someone as horrific as Saddam Hussein, and I supported the war fully, or Bashar al-Assad or Mubarak, because they were strong men, and it's not the way we are. But we have to ask ourselves, who are we going to replace these leaders with?
Exactly.
This is a civil war in Syria, and we know that when we got rid of Saddam, that Christian population that was protected by Saddam was ultimately almost completely destroyed.
Laura, you make such a good point. Is your fear in Syria that it becomes the next Libya?
Becomes the next Libya, becomes the next Iraq. I mean, again, Bashar al-Assad, who is a horrible, awful person, did not brutalize his own Christian population. He does all sorts of other things with all these splinter groups and these rebel groups. Some of them we think we know, others we don't. There's Al-Qaeda, there's of course ISIS mixed in, and the Russians and the Iranians. This is a complete cauldron of disaster. And all those people who voted for Donald Trump in Pennsylvania and all over the Rust Belt, they didn't vote for Rubio or they didn't vote for Jeb Bush because they didn't want more of the Bush doctrine. They liked what Donald Trump was saying. Be pragmatic. Be very careful before you get the United States once again involved in another country's civil war or ethnic conflict or tribal conflict. There is a lot of atrocities going around the world, including in China. We just hosted and toasted China. Do we know what they do to the women who have more than one children?
Right.
They cut babies out of their wombs. They put people in re-education camps.
Absolutely.
So it's all nice to have a nice event with China. But let's be honest about what they do to the people who disagree with the hierarchy there.
Sure.
So there's a lot of selective moral indignation going on out there about atrocities. And I hope the Trump team is true to what he campaigned on, which is pragmatic foreign policy that is a break from the Bush past, because that has been an electoral, political, and humanitarian disaster for the Middle East.
Absolutely. And I was just looking down. Donald Trump in the last 20 minutes tweeted twice, once about China, once about North Korea. We're going to be discussing that this morning. All right, Laura, thank you very much.
Great to see you guys.